Runway lights, faithless altitude. Hangars don't go quiet. They change keys. After the last engine spools down and the jet blast stops combing the asphalt, the building hums a note you can feel in your ribs, like a choir rehearsing under its breath. Sodium lamps throw long amber bones across the floor, tools click into their foam beds, and empty coffee cups perform slow pirouettes in the draft from a door that never seals quite right. If you've never stood under a fuselage at 2:00 something with turbine oil staining your knuckles and the runway lights winking like private jokes, you don't know how a room can ask for honesty without moving a single hinge. I'm Theo, line maintenance chief for a boutique charter company whose clients collect time the way other people collect scars. I sign my name under the sentences that keep aluminum honest. My desk is a map of small faiths, torque wrenches that complain if you lie to them, safety wire that remembers every bend you give it, tamper seals that break like promises, a grease pencil that leaves temporary truths on shiny surfaces. The logbooks live in a locked drawer that smells faintly of paper, ink, and the warm breath of liability. My wife once was Ava, events director for the same company, a velvet rope that knew how to become a ribbon when the moment wanted to feel like a gift. She could make a hangar look like a ballroom and a jet look like a vow. We met when a Gulfstream threw a tantrum on a Friday afternoon, and some board member's birthday insisted on becoming a state of emergency. She poured champagne for wolves, and I made the airplane purr like a satisfied cat. At 3 in the morning, when the rich had finally learned the difference between departure and escape, she touched my wrist with 2 fingers, like a flight attendant teaching turbulence to behave, and asked if I ever slept. I told her sleep was a rumor with good PR. We married 2 winters later in a de-iced dawn, the officiant wearing earmuffs and the photographer pretending the fog was a deliberate aesthetic. We kept Tuesdays, the way thieves keep maps folded in their pockets. She'd text me a single airplane emoji, and I'd leave a service door propped with a chalk and a path of work lights on low. The cabin of 7X FLC, the Falcon we never chartered without a private blessing, held a tray of strawberries and chocolate I stole from catering and coffee that forgave. We'd pull the shades and make the sky wait its turn. If this sounds like bragging, I'm laying out the cabin. There's a notch pressed into my lower back from the edge of the galley counter where she once pushed me while the microwave hummed a third that matched her laugh. Somewhere between rib and hip, she wears a comma of a birthmark I could find with my mouth even if the APU sang. She'd whisper, "Give me 10, meaning minutes, meaning mercy, meaning make the world late for us, and I'd spend 9 like a king and keep 1 tucked under my tongue for famine." The first wrong thing wasn't lipstick. It was timing. 0017 crew door A, open held for 6 seconds. Doors tattle when you make them share. 0023 auxiliary power unit, spooled to idle for 21 seconds, not long enough to need it, just long enough to suggest a hand that knew where the switches lived. 0028, camera H3 on the stairs to the mezzanine blinked to gray for 18 seconds and returned like innocence is a factory setting. On the galley counter, a pair of plastic flutes steamed slightly from a rinse, but the catering sink was dry. The cockpit smelled faintly of mint when it should have been a library of plastics and leather. On the armrest of the co-pilot's seat, a kiss of plum had dried itself into a crescent that made my chest forget its job. I wrote the airplane a generous story. A pilot showed a date where the stars sleep when we are unromantic about them. A cleaner hit the wrong button and pretended it was curiosity. The camera sneezed. The handprint on the counter belonged to a ghost that still believed in strawberries. Then Tuesday repeated itself, detail for detail, like a flight plan run through a copier. 001700 23 0028. The APU cleared its throat like a guilty baritone. The armrest memorized another mouth. At home, folding towels, she halves, I thirds. Marriage is geometry you practice with your breath. Ava said open the way, air traffic says cleared. She leaned her hip into the counter with sailor faith in hull and not sea. With rules, she added, and she didn't touch me while she said it. That's how you carry fragile truths, 2 hands visible, voice steady. Us first. No one from the company, no clients. Tell before, not after. Protection always. Our bed is sovereign ground. I wanted to be larger than machines that pretend to be birds. We wrote the rules on the back of a manifest and signed them like ink could intimidate oxygen. 2 Tuesdays, we were brave and disciplined as a pre-flight. The third, at 11:06 p.m., her text said client tasting ran late. Don't wait up. And the hangar answered by rehearsing me into a fool. I don't set traps in sanctuaries. I tune rooms until they can't lie. I put a whisper of UV reactive powder, harmless, annoying, under the lip of the crew door handle and in the notch of the APU switch. I rotated the light rheostat in the galley to an irrational angle that only my wrist would recognize in the dark. Hurried hands square things as if virtue were a geometry problem. I taped a hair of monofilament shin-high across the stairs to the mezzanine, not to catch, just to teach a stride it had been seen. I set the inertial reel of the co-pilot's shoulder harness 1 click tighter. A body that tells itself it belongs will loosen what it secretly resents. In the log, a blank page lay patient. If someone wrote, I'd know which pen was brave. 00:17 held 7 seconds. 00:23 whispered the APU awake and killed it fast. 00:28 gray snow on H3 like flour on a guilty cook's shirt. The rheostat returned to perfect. The monofilament lay colpolite on the stair treads where careful fingers had moved it aside with respect. The harness slackened a single click. Under my lamp, stars woke on steel where powder had remembered a wrist. She came in by the staff door with fast hair and a mouth that could carry a script without biting it. I lifted the UV, and she looked down at her own constellation like a saint surprised by stained glass. Don't make me the villain, Ava said. Not pleading, just tired of rooms that always want knives. I asked for before, I said. I thought I did, she said, and in her grammar client tasting counted. She had kept tempo. I had demanded melody. He followed with the floating confidence of men who think walls admire them. Chase Maddox, captain, brand face, the kind of pilot who can teach donors to pronounce mock like confession. He had shown our board how star charts turn into getting somewhere, had a jaw that looked like it made promises on behalf of gravity. He didn't look at me. He looked past me at the Falcon as if he were prepared to forgive it anything. We'll go, he told the air, respectful as a cat. We won't perform in here, I said. I held the door because buildings deserve ceremony when asked to carry weight. The latch made a modest consonant. The hangar exhaled once, and then we were professionals again. We separated with the ruthless kindness of people who can carry breakables. She took the blazer that made rich men forget the word no, and the calendar that taught them the choreography of delayed guilt. I kept my chipped mug with the company logo that never looked rich and my habit of telling airplanes the truth as if they were listening. Lawyers moved nouns between us in a conference room that smelled like toner and winter. We signed where names go when they're tired of starring. Work kept my wrists from building monuments to anger. A citations bleed airline decided it missed drama, and I taught it humility. A Cessna ate a bird, and I helped it learn forgiveness 1 feather at a time. A storm rolled in heavy, the kind of weather that makes the rich pretend they love turbulence, and I shepherded our flock into the hangar like a shepherd who declined to be biblical about it. I slept afternoons on a couch that thought it was still in an office furniture showroom, and woke knowing which torque wrench would sulk by the way its case sighed. That's when Lena arrived, wearing coveralls rolled at the ankle and a grin filed sharp enough to cut rope. Dispatch by title, systems whisper by habit, she could nurse a broken schedule back to health with a pencil and a threat. Her braid looked like rigging. She walked the hangar with the confidence of someone who knows which lights owe her rent. "Which of your children is lying?" she asked, eyes tilted toward 7XFLC. "The Falcon," I said. "It wants attention and calls it charm." "It wants to be wanted," she said, approving, and pressed her palm to the leading edge like you might to a fevered forehead. The airplane accepted her patience without taking liberties. We started with verbs that don't bruise. She taught me how to read a roster's weather. The way 3 divorces in a month means one pilot's mother will suddenly need a non-existent surgery. The way a certain client's assistant always thinks midnight is a mood, not a number. I taught her the exact whine a fuel pump gives 2 days before it admits pride is not a maintenance plan. She left half an orange on my toolbox, and I slid the peel into my pocket, letting my stubbornness smell like citrus and better choices. The first time she touched me, it was my wrist, 1 degree of correction, so I wouldn't scratch the Falcon's window with a zipper that thought it had rights. "There," she murmured, and heat went inventorying my bones like a careful clerk. We are not children. Speed is fear in lipstick. The first time we kissed, it was in the shadow under the wing, where the belly curves down like a woman forgetting she's supposed to be made of math. Her mouth tasted of orange and coffee and the warm place behind words that should be reserved for courage and love. She kept her eyes open for a heartbeat, not to check for cameras. I had bullied the angles of everything that counts, just to choose me twice. My hand found the small of her back where a day stores its opinion. She made a sound I put in my pocket for famine. We counted to 10 and used 9. The last second belongs to the airplane. We wrote rules that felt like respect, not fences. No hands near customer seats. Ghosts are real enough without our help. No mouths in cockpits. Instruments deserve boundaries. Yes to the service stares at 2 when the world is practicing its next storm. Yes to the tool cage with the light off and the smell of oiled steel confessing it has desires. Yes to my office with the blinds down, her knee against mine under a maintenance log that had started to learn gentler nouns. We kept our fingers off master keys, like people who have handled fire. The fundraiser came back because money adores its reflection. Lift, someone named it, because donors like metaphors that pretend physics owes them something. Ava arrived in a dress that taught aluminum how to dream. Chase drifted behind her with a smile that trusted cameras. We nodded like grown-ups who refuse to make a building carry what mouths can carry. Lena wore black because glue hides there and sailed through the hangar with a tablet like a compass that had never gotten anyone lost. From the dais, someone misused family as if corporate amnesty had ever been lineage. Another said alchemy and a trumpet obliged. I did my rounds because habit is a quiet god. 0017 didn't happen. The APU kept its mouth shut. Camera H3 watched like a dog finally choosing a new master. In my desk, the logbook relaxed, and the blue tamper seals slept without the ache of imminent narrative. The grease pencil rolled until it found the lip of the drawer and stopped like a man deciding not to press send. After breakdown, when the music forgot its choreography and the last caterer learned that mint is not a personality, Lena found me in the Falcon's doorway with my palm flat on the bulkhead, as if metal could teach my hand better manners. A crescent of wax glowed on her wrist where warmth lives. The smell of orange softened into something like a promise. "You look like you left yourself on the runway," she said. "I'm practicing staying," I said. "As what?" The word was gentle because she is. "As a guest," I said, and it felt like a seat that didn't need my ticket. We took the fire stairs to the roof because roofs don't gossip, and the night wind made the aviation fuel smell like memory. She pressed me against the parapet with the competence of someone who's measured falls and tells gravity no for sport. We kissed like people who respect risk and pay their bills. My belt scraped concrete, and we both laughed because slapstick belongs to the liturgy of rooms that have saved us. We stopped before the tower learned our names. There's a version where I stage a reckoning, pull the footage, map the times, parade the UV constellations under hangar lights while the board claps for the brave man who weaponized honesty. That version ends with airplanes that stop telling me the truth. I walked 2 bodies out of a door. I kept a sanctuary from being humiliated. I chose smaller verbs and learned they outlast knives. Summer taught the air handlers humility and me patience. The new first officer learned the difference between discretion and secrecy. One is a gift, the other a hobby that gets you fired. A pop star demanded a midnight hop to a city with a curfew written by cowards. We said no and earned the luxury of sleep. Lena taught me that schedules obey torque, not threats, and that I go very quiet 3 breaths before my temper remembers its mouth. I taught her the exact shy little sigh a nose-wheel strut gives before it begs for nitrogen, and how to nap upright in a crew chair without waking angry at your spine. One Tuesday, the crew door chirped out of habit and nobody answered. The APU idea never got past the opening arguments. Camera H3 admired the stairs with the ease of an animal at peace. I laughed into my sleeve. Lena laughed into my collarbone. The hangar pretended not to approve and let us be ordinary for a shift. If you ever wander a private hangar at the hour the world hides behind its second cup of coffee, and a voice tells you not to touch the aluminum because fingerprint oil is forever, that's me pretending I'm only talking about airplanes. If you see a woman in black pause to rest her cheek against a wing for 1 second like prayer, that's Lena telling the room we're its students. You won't see the UV wand unless the room asks for ghosts, and there isn't a gentler way. You won't see the tamper seals unless you already know why punctuation can save lives. I lock the service door and feel the burr under my thumb where 100 stories polish the steel honest. I kill the hangar lights in the order the airplanes prefer, so darkness arrives like a language they remember. The compressors sigh their last consent. Lena steals my final clean minute because she can. I let her because that rule outlived the rest. Tip the night. We walk the painted line with our hands in each other's pockets like we invented warmth. The runway outside eats its reflection again. The Falcon decides to trust us until morning. Hangars don't go quiet, they change keys. They forgive slowly and then all at once when you stop making them host scenes they didn't audition for. We don't have 10 anymore. We take the minutes we can carry and leave the rest in the air where heat shiver keeps them bright. In the morning, a stranger will lean into a window and believe, for a breath, that the sky already loves him. I will try to be as careful with the living. The logbook in my drawer will close with the sound of a sentence refusing to be a period. A semicolon, 2 clauses, joined by a breath the runway taught me to take.